Hey guys, this is Dave with Gazaudio. Today we are going to be taking a look at the Muse Hifi M3 Mark II USB DAC. So of course this is the second iteration of the M3, and there are some differences between the original and this second version in terms of both hardware and features. And the original M3 is a great DAC. As a matter of fact, when I reviewed it, it made my top 5. My top 4 being the BTR7, Channeling UA5, Moon River 2, and S9 Pro. But there have been quite a few new USB DACs come on the scene since then, like the Moon River 2 Ti and the Hifi FC6. So the dongle DAC landscape does look a little bit different now. So of course that begs two questions. Firstly, where does the M3 II land in terms of the most recent competition that's come on the scene? Secondly, does it sound different or even improve on the sound over the original M3? So those are the two questions I want to attempt to answer, but just so you know, I am trying to work on an updated version of my top picks video for USB DACs over $100, hopefully to be released sometime in the near future. So I won't be diving too deep into this comparison, but I will at least try and give you enough information to help you make an informed decision if you are looking to purchase. But first, let's go ahead and go over what's included in the box. We have the M3 Mark II itself. It also comes with a Type-C to Type-C USB cable and a Lightning to Type-C cable, which is really nice. It also comes with a USB Type-A to Type-C adapter. As for the price, specifications, and design, the M3 Mark II comes in at $169, which is actually a $20 increase over the original M3. It has both a 4.4 balanced and a 3.5 single-ended output. It also has a physical volume rocker that when the volume down is long pressed, it will put the device into adaptive mode, and then when you press volume up and down simultaneously, it will switch gain modes. And as I'd mentioned earlier, there are some differences between the original and the M3 II, both in terms of hardware and features. The original M3 utilized a single ES90328 Q2M DAC chip. So even though it did have a 4.4 balanced output, it does not actually have truly balanced output capabilities, whereas the M3 Mark II not only uses a different chipset, the CS43131, it actually has two of them, which means it does offer truly balanced output capabilities. Now, as far as what that power output is, I couldn't tell you, and it's not for lack of effort either, because I spent quite a bit of time scouring the internet trying to find it. Unfortunately, to no avail. However, I can tell you its output levels, which are 4 volts out of the 4.4 and 2 volts out of the 3.5, which is good, especially for driving full-size headphones, but there is no information on how many milliwatts of output it actually has. Again, I can tell you it's way more than enough to drive most any IM and probably most full-size headphones, at least based on the headphones that I tested it on. Oh, and by the way, I wasn't able to find the power output of the original M3 either. And I also tried to determine whether or not there is a power output difference between the original and the M3 II. And from what I could tell, there is no difference at all, because it seems like the output is about the same with both of these. Now, regarding some of the other specifications, the M302 does have a very impressive signal to noise ratio of 130 dBs out of the 4.4 and 125 out of the 3.5, compared with the original's 122 dBs. So that's pretty impressive. Now, as far as audio decoding, the M3 Mark II can decode 32-bit PCM and also DSD-256. It also has what Muse calls their Muse Space feature that automatically detects whether you're listening to music or playing games. And if you are playing games, it will automatically switch to esports mode, which basically enhances the 3D imaging and it creates a more immersive sound field. So it kind of helps you to immerse yourself in the game and kind of place where certain sounds are coming from. Now, the Muse Space feature can also automatically detect if the music codec is DSD, which If it is, it puts the device into DSD exclusive mode. It also has a light indicator on the side that changes colors based on whatever mode you're currently in. White for low gain and normal listening conditions. Green indicates DSD exclusive mode, and then red for high gain mode. As far as the build, it's really good, just like the original M3. The housing is made completely out of metal, which definitely gives it a robust feel. However, it does also add some weight, but to be honest, it wasn't really heavy enough for me to even notice in my pocket when I took it on walks, and I think the round shape helps with that as well. And speaking of the shape, I think the design is really nice. It's identical to the original in nearly every aspect except for the color. The original, of course, having this more gunmetal gray, which I did like just a little bit more. But again, I think this looks really, really cool. It would have been nice to maybe see just a little bit of a change with the design or shape other than just changing the color. And also regarding the coating, it's supposed to be scratch resistant, which is kind of cool. And it does seem to be holding up really, really well because there are no scratches, at least not that I can see, and I've been using it quite a bit. Okay, I think that covers everything on the specifications side. So let's go ahead and talk about the sound. Okay, let's talk about the sound of the M3 II. So we know this uses the CS43131 chip, which is a fairly common choice for USB DACs in this price range. It's used in the Moondrop Dawn, the new Moondrop Dawn Pro also, which I just received and I will be reviewing soon, the FiiO KA2, the Tangent Space, Space Lite, and even some much higher priced LNP devices. Of course, it's not just about the DAC chip as much as it is the implementation that ultimately determines its sound quality. But the reason I bring this up is because the Dawn and both the Space and Space Lite were also some of my top budget picks under $100. Now, of course, the M3 Mark II does jump up in cost quite a bit, and it's competing directly with some of my higher performing devices like the Moonriver 2 Ti and also the feature-packed BTR7. But I want to back up just a little bit and talk about the sound performance of the M3 Mark II. And for time's sake, I will go ahead and cover the sound differences between the original and the new M3 Mark II as well. So the overall sound signature of the M3 Mark II is quite linear and uncolored and sounds very similar to the original. However, the original does have a slightly smoother treble presentation. The M3 II has a slightly lighter presentation and leans just a little more towards the clinical side. That being said, the M3 Mark II isn't clinical necessarily. It's just, again, it's pushing towards that direction when compared to the original. It's still overall very natural sounding, but it's also giving me just a little more detail throughout. But beyond that, it just seems to more accurately represent instruments and vocals in general. Now, of course, this will depend on your personal preference, whether you prefer something slightly smoother like the original. But when I'm doing a side-by-side, I do feel like the M3 Mark II is giving me a more transparent and a more accurate, albeit slightly less weighty, presentation than the original M3. And that goes for detail levels as well, and not just in the treble. I'm getting more detail throughout, again, the entire frequency spectrum, so from top to bottom. And it's also giving me a little more of an open presentation in general as well. Now, as I always say, the device is only going to perform as well as your headphones or IEMs. So if they have good technical capabilities, then this will allow that quality to come through. So I do really feel that in terms of overall transparency, accuracy, and detail retrieval, the Muse 3 MK2 is a slight improvement over the original. Now, Whether or not that has to do with a different DAC implementation, or maybe it's dual DAC configuration, I don't know, but I'm definitely hearing a difference. And as far as power output, again, I don't have the numbers, but as far as using this with full-size headphones, I can tell you that you should not have a problem driving most normal headphones to decent volumes. However, like any average dongle DAC, it may struggle a little bit more to drive the harder to drive headphones. Now, one thing I should clarify, and this is just a nitpick really, but I already felt that the original M3 sounded just a little thin and lacked slightly as far as its note weight. And I am definitely noticing that same trait with the M3 Mark II. So there's part of me that wants just a little more meatiness to its presentation. That being said, and I mentioned this in my original M3 review as well, I'm completely aware that these are just my preferences, and it's not necessarily reflective of the overall mid-bass and bass quality. And to be clear, the bass quality is very good for this price range. As a matter of fact, the M3 Mark II's overall quality is very good for this price range. And then finally, I also tested for background noise using my 2020 Andromedas, and I heard no background noise whatsoever. So this is a very, very quiet device. Now, as far as where the M3 Mark II lands in terms of value and performance compared to the competition. Now, again, I'm hoping to do another updated top picks video for this price category, so I don't want to dive too deep into comparisons. Besides, this video is already going just a little bit too long. That being said, like the original M3, the M3 Mark II has made my top 5. And that takes into account the newcomers on the scene like the Moonriver 2 Ti. But I will tell you that the Hibi FC6 remains my top pick USB DAC, but it's also $299. And I can also tell you that the BTR7 is still one of the best values out there, in my opinion. But in terms of pure sound performance, the M3 Mark II is now one of my favorite DACs under $200, which not only makes it a solid value, it's also pushing uncomfortably close to some of my other favorite DACs, like the Moonriver 2 Ti and the BTR7. So Muse Hifi has put out a solid little device here and just a great package overall. So the M3 Mark II definitely does get my recommendation. So that concludes my review of the Muse Hifi M3 Mark II. If you're new to the Gazaudio channel and you like our videos, please take a minute and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to go a step further, you can also support us through our Patreon. I'll make sure and leave a link in the description. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this review. Please like this video, please share this video. I hope you have an awesome day.